Hello and welcome to today's Autumn Connect and Collaborate event. My name is Mike Frail and I am the Member Benefits and Program Manager at Autumn, as well as today's staff host. All lines have been muted to ensure high quality audio, and today's session is being recorded. If you have a question for the presenter, we encourage you to save them until the breakout session in the second half of today's event. Should you need closed captioning during today's session, the Zoom live transcript feature is turned on and available on your toolbar. I would like to now introduce today's session moderator, Gayleen Anderson.
Hi, everybody. I'm so excited to be here. My day job is working at Boehringer Ingelheim, but one of my favorite jobs right now is sitting on the board for Autumn, is sitting in the industry seat. So today's event is close to my heart, where we get to talk with different industry colleagues from around the world and talk about how you can better work with them. And the group kind of is a mixture of a little bit of everything. We got pharma and biotech, we have lab equipment, research tools, chemicals and consumer goods, and different funding organizations that I think that you'll be excited to hear from. One is probably well known, and a couple other might be new to you. One of them is very new to you, and they have an exciting funding opportunity for university to participate in with some deadlines in January. So I know you're going to want to jump on hearing that. But with that said, I'm going to start today with talking a little bit more about my company to kick us off. And if you don't know Boehringer Ingelheim, Boehringer is one of the large pharma companies in the world. We're the largest privately held company. It's been owned by the same family for over 140 years, based out of Germany. The U.S. headquarters are in Ridgefield, Connecticut, where I am located. And the company has grown a lot in my tenure. I've been here for about 8 years. I came to BI after working in tech transfer offices around the United States for many, many years. Started at the University of Hawaii, then I was at the University of Idaho, Notre Dame, Cleveland Clinic, and then I made my way to Boehringer Ingelheim. I still feel kind of a little bit like a tech transfer person because I spent more time doing that, but I've been in industry for the last 8 years. And I came to BI in business development licensing, negotiating research contracts and licenses, both with universities and companies. And about a year ago, I took on a new position to manage the US's strategic research relationships. And this is what I want to share a little bit about BI, how big they are. We're about almost up to $26 billion in US sales, employees all over the world. We're in many continents. But what's most important to me is that we put about 25% of our net sales back into R&D. And because of that, about 50% of our pipeline is anchored in some sort of external collaborations. That's something that we're really proud of. And that has enabled us to build the pipeline that's extraordinary. Boehringer is going to launch about 25 new drugs over the next 5 years. So you'll be seeing our name more and more. I think right now we're most popularly known for Jardiance. You see those dancing commercials almost everywhere. Okay, next slide. This will just show you a little bit about how you can work with us. So I mentioned our business development and licensing group that does the licensing and research contracts. You can easily find our scouts if you go to boehringeringelheim.com and you click on partnering. You have the choice of going to human pharma or animal health, and you will find the scouts. You'll find their picture, you'll find their email, you'll find their cell phone. They're not organized by geography, they're organized by therapeutic areas. So if you have something that's interesting, that's an opportunity that you want to share and have a scout look at it, I encourage you to reach out to them and share that with them. We also have a large corporate venture fund. A large focus for them has been in the digital health space, but they look at opportunities all across the space. Our grassroots initiatives is something that's really popular, especially with universities. And if you don't know anything about that, you'll also see that if you go to a partnering page at boehringeringelheim.com. One of my favorite programs that they do is called Office Hours. We do this around the world. In the US, it's often in New York and Boston, Dallas, in California. And we invite companies to come and pitch where they are in their life cycle. And this is even tech transfer offices that want to talk about questions or ideas that they have and get some non-confidential kind of support and questions asked. And we bring people, executives from the company that will come and sit with you and help answer those questions. And then finally, I want to talk about OpenMe. I'll share that more on the next slide. This is a really interesting program. Go ahead, Mike, you can switch. There you go. This is a really interesting program that started out as an open science portal for Boehringer Ingelheim, where we offer free molecules. And then that became so popular that then it morphed into adding more programs. Now we often promote funding opportunities for questions that you might suggest using these molecules or not using the molecules. Sometimes we put out RFPs with our molecules or not, and we'll fund projects. We hire postdocs to work on some of these projects. We have an open to experts page. It's a crowdsourcing platform. So if you have any interest in this, I encourage you to go to openme.com and you can look at all the different models that we're doing. But it really is kind of a neat place that you can go to get free tools. We don't charge shipping or anything. We allow you to publish. You own IP on things that you do in advance those molecules. So share that with your researchers at your institutions and see if it's something that it might be helpful to their own research initiatives. And last slide just shows you how you can get to me. Oh, one more. You can get to me. There's my email address and my cell phone number. There's a QR code that will take you to our US page, which also gets you to our worldwide pages of how you can partner with us. And I'm always open to answer questions, both for Boehringer Ingelheim and also, again, sitting on the board with Autumn, trying to help our industry partners work more effectively and more broadly with our university partners. And with that, I'm going to turn that over to the rest of the panelists, and I'll see you again to answer questions when we're inside of the breakout rooms. And I know you're going to enjoy listening to the next 7 panelists that are here today. And I'll see you again soon. We'll start with Neil.
Good day, everyone. If we can start the slides. There we go. Eastman Chemical Company is a 104-year-old company that started as a division of Eastman Kodak. We've since split off from them and have been eminently more successful, I will admit. We are, and part of our history and our DNA is sustainability. And we are focusing on sustainability for the future. And those are the needs that I'm going to talk to you about today. So next slide. So we are a Fortune 500 specialty materials company with sales in just a bit north of 10 billion. We have a team of about a bit over 14,000 people with 35 manufacturing sites around the world. We are split into 4 divisions: additive and functional products, advanced materials, chemical intermediates, which kind of fuel the whole engine, and then fibers. In the sustainability area, we have committed to recycle 250 million pounds of plastic waste annually starting next year. And it actually started this year. And we have made a commitment to carbon neutrality by the year 2050. So let's talk a little bit about what sustainability means at Eastman. Next slide. So we do have a vision for a better circle. This is something that we show at a lot of our meetings. Our critical impact areas are 3 that we focus on: mitigating climate change, mainstreaming circularity, and then caring for society. And our businesses focus and aim at all 3 of these areas. Next slide. As an example, building a better circle here, we committed in 2019 to invest a significant amount of money in recycling plastics. This slide, the picture there is a picture of a molecular recycling or a chemical recycling facility for polyester that we built over the last 3 years at our flagship site in Kingsport, Tennessee. The goal is to process 110,000 metric tons of plastic waste annually. We do plan 2 additional facilities, one in Normandy, France, And one, I think the location has been identified in Texas now, where we are going to process another 110,000 metric tons annually. The Kingsport site actually came online early this year, and is working away at churning out recycled polyester. And then the other two sites are expected in the next few years. And so this has been a focus area for ours. So technologies and alternatives that are in the polyester recycling area are definitely of interest to us. Next slide, please. As far as mitigating climate change, we have made a commitment to reduce Scope 1 and 2 emissions by 1/3 by 2030, and we're well on the way to that, and to achieve total carbon neutrality by 2050. In addition to that, we have pledged to increase renewable energy at Eastman so that 100% of our purchased electricity in North America will be renewable by 2030. And next slide. And so as we look at climate change and getting towards net zero, this is just kind of a map of all the things that we're considering, through electrification all the way up through partnerships. And I will tell you that I in particular have a great interest in carbon capture, use, and sequestration. This is an area that I am focused in, but all these areas are of interest to us. And I think the last slide. And so for questions around circularity in particular, you can reach out to Kevin McCreight at the email indicated. And for decarbonization, you can reach out to me again at my email. And thank you for your attention.
Guess I'm up next. Thanks, Gillian, for the kind words of introduction. I'm Mike Hansen, and I'm very pleased on behalf of Eppendorf SC to talk about our company, its mission, approach to innovation, and how, as a strategic investor and collaborator, we're positioned to engage with the research and startup community represented by Autumn, whose work focus could also reflect on life sciences tool development. Next slide. As can be read in the short bio prepared for this autumn workshop, after my postdoc training, I had the opportunity to work in industry for several companies in a variety of roles, ranging from an applied R&D director to a head for corporate BD and licensing. Prior to that, I began my professional career in the clinical laboratory world as a practicing clinical microbiologist. And after my first span of corporate work, I took a turn on the other side of the technology development and commercialization spectrum at the University of Cincinnati's Tech Transfer Office and the Cleveland Clinic's Innovations and Ventures Office, covering those institutions' outbound interests in the life sciences. My return to the corporate environment came in Q1 of 2022, when the opportunity to join Eppendorf SE's first try at a corporate venture group arose. Today, we've begun transition of the corporate venture group into a corporate development office, anticipating full cross-division coordination with other divisional-based BD colleagues early next year. That's important since the responsibility breadth for corporate development will now include pursuit of acquisitions, venture placements, collaborations, and technology licensing in support of all three Eppendorf SE product divisions, those being automation, separations and instrumentation, and bioprocess. The next slide, please. Since I understand the speaker slide decks from today will be made available, I'll only highlight a few select points from each of the following ones. Eppendorf SE is a private family-owned company, giving us flexibility to focus on what the supervisory board approves, as vetted through our group executive committee, from strategies created collaboratively by our corporate development group, the divisional leadership, and BD counterparts in these divisions, with the aim to maintain and expand our leading market position in the life sciences tools area. Next slide. We are a profitable enterprise headquartered in Hamburg, Germany, with research, development, manufacturing, production, and commercialization strengths, which we would, with the worldwide employees of the company, like to further augment and diversify strategically via external innovation. Next slide. At its heart, Eppendorf SE is a life sciences tool company with a commercial focus on academic, pharma, and biotech customer segments. However, this doesn't mean that we don't sell into the other segments noted here, although I must mention for transparency that by choice, Eppendorf SE doesn't create or sell products for use in an FDA-regulated field application, such as pharmaceuticals, biologics, medical devices, or diagnostic tests, but serve the customers who, in their own business lines, do produce those types of products. Next slide. If you've ever worked in a laboratory, just about any type, you have likely come across one or more of our products, as illustrated here. That themselves do a very good job for the tasks they're designed, but nevertheless, our corporate development group is active in the search for an evaluation of novel product innovations that can help us do a better job at solving workflow pain points for laboratory customers. Next slide. An aspect of Eppendorf SE that I respect from my time doing applied research to develop products in the diagnostics and medical device field is that our company does value approaching development from the user's point of view. And that philosophy is important because it nests tightly with why we look to interact with a variety of parties engaged in creating innovative solutions, like the institutions which Autumn members work for. And we do this to understand the issues facing researchers and to get first looks at outside innovation that can augment our product portfolios directly through activities or relationships with startups, or through support for product development by our divisional R&D tech centers, by other types of collaborations or licensing. Next slide. I'd like to invite those participating in today's Connect and Collaborate session to either join the breakout room part of this webinar event or to reach out to me directly relative to further details about our search areas, which will focus on basic or applied research tools, processes, and platforms in the life sciences to discuss how we can find synergies of interest. And as illustrated in this slide, we like to engage initially on a non-confidential basis to get to know one another, understand what the capabilities, needs, aspirations that either parties are. There are many forms of collaboration that we can consider, so we need to have an idea mutually of which direction we want to go, and then to define the next interaction and decision steps. Thank you.
All right. So hi, everyone. While the slides are coming up, I'll introduce myself. My name is Maurice Lee. I am the program director within the global life sciences vertical for a company called Start2 Group. And I'm sort of excited to talk to you guys about a new initiative that is a collaboration between my company, which has sort of historically run innovation and acceleration programs for startups. And I'm helping entrepreneurs across the globe with US market entry. So we've created a new collaboration with the Administration for Strategic Preparedness and Response and BARDA, which are divisions of the federal government within the Health and Human Services Division that are specifically focused on strategic preparedness and responses for medical countermeasures. And we've created, through this collaboration, a new acceleration launch pad called VITAL, which stands for the Vaccine Innovation and Therapeutics Acceleration Launch Pad. I'm going to warn you, there's a few acronyms in my presentation. You can move to the next slide, please. So a quick word on BARDA. So BARDA is a member of a division of HHS, and it supports the development and sort of furtherance of medical countermeasures. These are technologies and products that prevent and prepare for health security threats, not only threats that could emerge like through terrorism, like biological and chemical threats, but also in preparation for other global health threats like pandemics, pandemic flu, and emerging infectious diseases, COVID obviously being one of the most recent areas in which BARDA has played a huge role in sort of creating and initiating a response to. So BARDA supports these early stage technologies, and one of the ways they've started doing this at the sort of startup and early technology levels, say at the academic stage, is to create this new BARDA Accelerator Network, which is a network of companies like mine, like Start2, that have large networks and are familiar with and have consistently and effectively run acceleration programs and furtherance of new technologies. And so what they've done is they've created this accelerator network of 5 individual sort of areas. You can see them listed here on the right. They're therapeutics and vaccines. That's the one, the Vital Hub that my company is running. There's also a hub for diagnostics and medical devices, digital health tools, special populations. This is like pediatrics, for example, and then enabling technologies. What's important about these hubs is that they're targeting and supporting early stage biotech companies, academic projects, and nonprofits. And also importantly, we're doing this globally. So unlike other areas of the federal government where monies can't flow unless those operations are located domestically, BARDA's mission is global. Because we're supporting pandemics, they're not limited to borders. So we're interested in exploring technologies, not only domestically, but technologies that can come from anywhere. Can you move to the next slide, please? So the Vital Hub supports the acceleration of therapeutic and vaccines platforms and technologies, and it's run by Start2, but it's actually a collaboration between my company Start2 as well as another accelerator called Advise, Connect, Inspire (ACI), which has historically focused and supported biotech, I should say, life sciences companies from Europe, as well as Biolabs, which is a company that supports from an infrastructure standpoint. It provides lab space and support programs for early stage startups, and they have 17 locations across the U.S., Europe, and Asia. But Start2 is leading this initiative. Can you move to the next slide? So I'm excited to talk about 3 funding and support opportunities. I'm going to go through these kind of one by one, but starting from the right. So one of the things that we do is we're offering an accelerator program that is 6 months long. We're going to run this on an annual basis. As part of this accelerator program, we'll support early technologies and startups that may come from some of your programs, I hope, some of your portfolios, I hope. And in this program, they'll get individualized and customized mentoring with biotech experts through regular meetings. Every company or tech will be supported by a lead mentor, a project manager, and a supporting mentor team. This program is run annually. We have a solicitation open that will open up in April, and it's free of charge because all the funds sort of come in a pass-through way to our organization. There's an application process, and I encourage you to click on the look up the website vitalhubhealth.com at the bottom, or the QR code in the top right, and it'll take you to our webpage. The opportunity in the middle here is non-dilutive development, evaluation, and validation funding. These are 6-month-long programs initiated annually, and these are milestone-based funding opportunities for the development, evaluation, or validation of vaccines and therapeutics technologies that sort of fit within BARDA's mission. These are $50,000 to $200,000 awards. These are not grants. These are actually contracts, and these will be provided through Vital, basically as a pass-through coming from BARDA. We have a solicitation that is open and ongoing for those projects. So I encourage you to go to the website and look to see if any of your portfolios qualify or are interested. And then the newest opportunity I'm really excited to talk about on the left here is another non-dilutive funding opportunity. That's a 3-year-long project. And this is a very specific kind of niche area, but I'm hoping to find and source new interesting technologies this way. It's another milestone-based funding opportunity, specifically for the development of nucleic acid-based and monoclonal antibody platforms for pre-exposure prophylaxis for influenza. So very specific request, but I'm excited to say that we're offering up to $4 million over 3 years for preclinical development, evaluation, and validation services, as well as up to $7.5 million over 3 years if the plan and the proposal include some clinical stage activities. So I think this is what Galen was talking about when she said the exciting opportunity that closes in January. If you're interested, happy to answer any questions during the Q&A session. But the solicitation for this, we're doing this in 2 rounds where we'll have a sort of a pre-application, and then the full application will be by invitation only. So we want to get in as many pre-applications as we can before January 31st deadline. Can you go to the next slide, please? So if you guys have any questions, contact my supervisor, Mark Filerman. So he's the managing partner of the START2 group. You can certainly reach out to me. I'm sure my email address can be made available by the organizers here. I want to thank you guys for the opportunity to share this, and I hope you all end up going to vitalhubhealth.com. Thanks.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and introduce myself just in the interest of time as the slides are being pulled up. I'm Kirsten Loita of Osage University Partners. I head up our university relationships. For those of you who don't know us, we've been around now for almost 15 years. We are a venture capital firm that invests in startups out of academic institutions. We have been doing this for quite a while and invest in a lot of different spaces. So I'm happy to tell you all about those if we go to the next slide. So the idea of OUP was built around the idea that academic institutions sometimes have participation rights in their license agreements. And we hope more and more academic institutions do include participation rights in their license agreements. What are participation rights? Participation rights are the ability to invest in future rounds of a startup company that the university is licensing to. It's typically a company that is being formed or having added on IP from the university that is going to form some sort of basis for the particular startup company. A lot of universities these days do have venture funds, more and more do. And sometimes they're able to invest through these participation rights. Sometimes they're able to invest through other mechanisms that they have. But if the participation rights are assigned to us and we make the investment, then we actually share a portion of our profits with those universities. I'm happy to talk more about that. But that's not the idea that our model was founded around, was universities potentially have these participation rights. We could invest through them and share our profits with the universities. But we've become so much more than that over the years that we've been doing with this. We provide a lot of programmatic support to the tech transfer offices, the startup organizations, the new ventures organizations around the campuses to help with the operations and best practices that we see with regards, particularly to university startups across campuses, not just in the US, but we do work with institutions abroad as well. So we have a lot of different programs that hopefully I'll have a chance to just mention briefly later on. We are now on our fourth fund. We have about 800 million AUM between our four funds, over 150 portfolio companies. A lot of those have had success, and a lot of them are still maturing, as they do often for venture capital funds. We'll go to the next slide. There are three different ways that we partner with, if we go to the next slide. There are three different ways. I'm just going to keep talking if we get to the next slide. Great. There are three different ways that we partner with universities. We have our core partners, our associate partners, and our community partners. Core partners pre-assign their participation rights to us that I just mentioned. They pre-assign their participation rights to us for the term of a fund prior to our raising that particular fund. It's about 20 or so institutions that are our core partners. Associate partners was a model that we came up after we started the fund. We originally thought we were just going to have core partners, but we had other universities coming to us and saying, hey, we have opportunities that you may want to invest in. We may not have quite as much deal flow, et cetera, as your core partners do. So we started our associate partners program where we sign a simple MOU with them to work with them and potentially also invest in their startup companies. And so we have about 80 associate partners now. And then we started our community partners program. We're very flexible and responsive, basically, to the universities we work with based on their feedback to us, where we were having people who were either at a core partner or an associate partner and moving to another institution that wasn't a partner with us yet, but they still really wanted access to all the resources that we provide for the technology transfer and the startup side. So we started our community partners program, which is very simple. It's basically an email exchange saying that the community partner would like to have access to our resources. And if we were to make an investment in one of a community partners startups, they would then move to an associate partner status. Associate partners do also receive a portion of profits as well, based on the companies that we invest in out of their universities as well. So we have these three different ways that we work with the universities. If we go to the next slide, you can just see our team and how we divide up the world of deep sciences that we invest in. We have both a life science investment team and a tech investment team, as well as our universities relations, finance, and administrative teams. So we're all the ones working on, getting the information on the companies from all of you. So we'll go to the next slide. We invest anywhere from seed to mature stage technologies. So anywhere from when they're raising those seed rounds, we don't really do pre-seed funding. We are a typical venture capital investor. So just think of us as a seed to late stage investor. So pre-IPO or pre-M&A rounds. And then we do anywhere that deep science is happening is where we will invest. So we can go to the next slide. This just gives you a sampling of the types of companies that we invest in. I'm not going to go into this in the interest of time, but happy to have this deck shared afterwards. You can go to the next slide. This gives you an idea of the types of programs that we offer to our partners. Lots of people know us for our webinars that we give, as well as our startup license terms database, where we provide comps to people in tech transfer with regards to startup license terms. Happy to talk with anyone more about that in the breakout room. So next slide. And this just gives you an idea of the participation rights language that may appear in the license agreements should we invest in companies. Participation rights is how we prefer to invest, but it is not the only way that we end up investing in companies, and we're always happy to talk about that as well. So with that, I think I've taken more than my time. We'll go to the last slide. That's my contact information, but happy to talk with more people more about that in the breakout rooms. Thank you.
Great. Hi, everyone. I'm next. So I'm Katie Montague from AstraZeneca, based in Cambridge in the UK. So to introduce myself, while my slides are loading, I sit in the oncology external R&D team at AstraZeneca. and I lead the sub-team responsible for our research collaboration agreements with academics. So prior to that, I actually worked on the academic tech transfer side. So I was at the Boehringer Institute in Cambridge, and I also worked in the UK's National Health Service in tech transfer. Go to the next slide. So as some of you may know, AstraZeneca is a patient-focused pharmaceutical company, and we look to leverage the power of science and innovation to deliver growth and leadership in our therapy areas. And I'll go into a bit more detail about the therapy areas that we work in the next slide to introduce you to those. We have a global footprint, so we have 5 strategic R&D hubs in Boston in the US, Gaithersburg in the US, Cambridge UK, Gothenburg Sweden, and Shanghai China. But we also have a number of other R&D sites elsewhere, and obviously market presence throughout the world. We're also very committed to sustainability as a company. In particular, we drive industry-leading change focused on climate. So with our ambitions to be carbon zero. So if we go to the next slide, please. So to introduce you to our therapy areas, so we have 3 R&D organisations within AstraZeneca. So oncology is looking to lead a revolution in oncology to redefine cancer care. And we do this through attacking cancer through multiple different angles. So looking for combinations of therapies using different modalities. We also look to attack cancer earlier and smarter. And we work in most of the major tumour types. So in particular, lung, breast, colorectal, prostate, blood cancers, gastric cancers, and gynecological cancers. Our biopharmaceuticals R&D organisation has a number of subgroups, so working on cardiovascular and heart disease, renal disease, metabolic disease such as obesity and diabetes, respiratory, immunology, vaccines and immune therapies. And through the acquisition of Alexion, we now also have a rare disease R&D organisation, which looks to transform the lives of people affected by rare diseases. So let's move to the next slide. So in addition to the small molecules and biologics that we've been working in for some years, we also work on next generation therapeutics to try and target disease in different ways. So this may be antibody drug conjugates, radio conjugates. So we recently did a deal to acquire a company called Fusion in this area. We're working in cell therapy and with T-cell engagers. So we recently, for example, formed an alliance with the Moffitt Cancer Center to drive innovation and clinical research in those areas and in gene therapy. Next slide. So collaboration is absolutely central to our success as an organisation, so that we know we can't access the best innovation on our own. So we have over 1,000 active collaborations across academia, governments, biotechs and industry. And in particular on this slide, I'd like to draw your attention to our Open Innovation Programme, which is particularly targeted to academics. So through this, we share access to our resources and expertise for drug discovery and development. So we make a number of our assets available for both preclinical and clinical research. We can also work with you on new targets that are coming out of academia through access to our screening capabilities. We provide guidance to spin-out companies. And we also run a number of calls through our co-solve scheme where we're looking for academics to address problems that we're working on. So definitely recommend taking a look at that site. Next slide. So finally, rather than give my contact details, AstraZeneca is obviously a huge organisation, about 90,000 employees. So I'd recommend looking at these 2 websites. So the Open Innovation website I've just talked about, again, that's particularly relevant to academic researchers. And then our Partnering and Business Development website is more focused on the licensing, and there are a number of contacts listed on that site in the different therapy areas that we work in. And just finally, I wanted to say, looking forward to the autumn meeting next year where we'll be platinum sponsors. So hopefully get to meet some of you there. Thank you.
So welcome everyone on the call. While the slides are coming up, I represent Thermo Fisher, a global life science products company. A bit about my background. I started out in R&D. I worked for different biotech companies over several years. Then I moved into the tech transfer. I worked for different organizations in tech transfer, out licensing. And I see also some of my former colleagues are in the audience. Then a few years ago, I moved to Thermo Fisher into a group called Innovation Partnerships. And Innovation Partnerships is on the buy side of BD and covers licensing. So Thermo has an organic and inorganic approach to innovation. On the inorganic side, buy side, we have OEM groups, we have M&A groups, and also licensing. And most recently, also, we have some colleagues that are looking into strategic capital and licensing. Strategic capital are the activities that are for universities most relevant. The next slide, please. So our mission is to enable our customers to make the world healthier, cleaner, and safer. And that means we don't engage in therapeutic development ourselves, but we provide the products and services to our customers. And those customers are equally split into corporate as well as academic and nonprofit governmental agencies. And the next slide, please. So this slide shows a bit how we grew over the years inorganically through different M&A events. So these companies were then folded under the Thermo Fisher umbrella. We have about 125,000 colleagues spread out all over the world, and a strong commitment to R&D. Many of our colleagues are R&D scientists, and these are just the R&D groups. So several of my colleagues that are in product management, that are in program management, have scientific backgrounds as well. So we spent about 1.5 billion in R&D investments, and licensing is a very strong source for us for inorganic growth. So over the years, we signed about 2,500 licenses, actually 2,500 active licenses right now. So we signed several more. So that underscores the importance of licensing for Thermo Fisher. So the next slide, please. So this slide shows the different pillars that comprise Thermo Fisher and the type of products that are under those pillars. So for universities and how you engage with us, I think the next slide might be more relevant. So the next slide, please. So that shows some examples of technologies we are looking for, and then that just represents cell biology. I have colleagues that cover different other areas. So my focus is cell biology, molecular biology, sample prep, and nucleic acid therapeutics. And I can talk more about that in the breakout sessions. But this just gives you a flavor of the different technologies we are looking for. And I also want to say that many of these technologies are then turned into products relatively quickly, within about 1 year or so. And because of that, I work closely with product managers. And for the university, what that means is that you can, when you do a license with us, you can expect royalty income relatively soon after signing a license. The next slide, please. The next slide, please. Thank you. So this slide just gives you a flavor also of the number of interactions we have through different channels. We look at about 200 plus strategic opportunities per year. We do about 125 deal negotiations per year. And again, like, this combines licensing, OEM, and then collaboration agreements. So on the lower right side, you see that about 40% of our revenue comes from technologies or innovations that were brought into Thermo Fisher. The next slide, please. So this slide shows you how you can interact with us. We have a storefront, a portal, and here on the right side are just some contacts. So my name is Stefan Schweitzer, and I'm based in Carlsbad, and Jonathan Auerbach, he's a colleague that focuses a little bit more on the strategic capital side now, which is and also relevant for startup companies. And here, my director, Abi, so he also, and he can, for technologies that are more in the engineering side, he can then direct you then to the respective colleague. So we get a lot of technologies in through different channels. And so one point I want to get across is that many of the university technologies, so innovation partnerships and the link here and these colleagues here should be the main address to submit technologies to. So the next slide, please. So that just shows you where I'm located, and I want to thank you again for listening, and I'm looking forward to the discussions in the breakout room.
Hi, everyone. I guess I'm next. My name is Omar. I'm the Chief Technology Officer of a venture capital fund called TandemLaunch, and I'm going to talk a little bit about what we do. So just next slide, please, Mike. So I'm going to start with a question. What do these three technologies have in common? There's a novel design for an antenna that couples magnetostrictive and piezoelectric materials to basically create antennas about 1,000 times smaller than classical antennas, breaking a fundamental limit. The second is a naturally directional microphone made of a piece of spider silk coated in gold, suspended between an electromagnet. And the third is a very fundamental mathematical framework applied to graphics and large language models to create potentially huge accelerations in their compute efficiency and in their power efficiency. Next slide, please. The answer is that they are unlikely to ever be licensed directly to large companies. The reason for this is that large companies are often very hesitant to put a large amount of money into risk R&D, especially in public companies where short-sighted or short-term thinking investors will often punish investment that doesn't yield direct results on the top line of a business. Technologies that require enormous risk capital, they require navigating complex supply chains. This is especially true of physical sciences, electrical engineering, where your selling of a product doesn't just involve the technology in a one-to-one mapping, but often involves embedding into a much larger patent portfolio or supply chain out there. Often, these technologies require some form of market experimentation to figure out exactly where they should go. Often, they might even create new markets. And finally, we can expect a very long time to market. And so in those contexts, a startup is really your most viable option for proliferating that technology and making any kind of real return on it. But I don't think I need to tell anyone here that creating startups is extremely difficult. Licensing to them is risky, potential for losing IP completely, or at least locking them up into zombie situations. Finding experienced talent for those startups, especially of this sort, is really, really difficult in the university context. Market validation requires you actually start building the company in many cases. And so there's a bit of a catch-22 there. And finally, finding patient and knowledgeable deep tech investors is very difficult. Next slide, please, Mike. And so TandemLaunch is a venture capital fund with a unique approach to commercializing technologies. We actually build companies from scratch. It starts by locating inventions at universities in the US and worldwide, building models for businesses around those inventions in close collaboration or close discussion with our technology transfer office partners, as well as the inventors. And then from there, if we approve an investment, we will do the rest. We will recruit a founding team. It does not necessarily have to come from the inventors' labs. Actually, in most cases, it doesn't. We will invest up to $1.5 million into those businesses, and we will spend the next 18 months building that company from the ground up until it's ready for seed stage financing. We build about 5 companies a year, which speaks to the amount of effort we have to put into each individual company. There aren't many venture capital funds out there that will invest in that few companies a year. We can start with just a lab bench prototype. We synthesize founding teams based on merit and experience, eventually capping off the team with an experienced CEO who's built companies of this type before with successful outcomes and exits. Inventors can participate in any way they want. It can range from simple advisorship after tech transfer all the way to sponsored research, or some have actually taken sabbaticals and joined as employees in the company. We can boast an 85% success rate getting our companies to that seed stage. And we've been able to produce millions of dollars in university equity as well as in research sponsorship dollars. We also provide baked-in downside protection for intellectual property as well as early-stage dilution events for the university. Next slide, please. And I'm going to end with basically what we invest in. So we focus entirely in the physical sciences and the engineering disciplines. We do not invest in any regulated areas and regulated technologies, so that would exclude biotechnology. But we are able to engage extremely early, and we can give free, no commitment feedback on submitted technologies to us. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us at either the email you see here or through the website. Looking forward to answering any questions you have in the breakout rooms. Thank you.
Thank you to all the presenters. At this time, I am inviting you to join our presenters in breakout rooms where you will be able to ask more specific questions of them. This portion of our event will not be recorded. We will be ending the recording at this time. Our presenters will be split into 2 rooms where they share similar fields of expertise. Please give me a moment while I send the presenters to their respective breakout rooms, and then I will open it up to everyone else.